I'm Craig Fisher, and this is Inside Talent, where we take you into the minds behind the scenes and show you some of the coolest tools and best practices of some of the coolest people in the talent industry. My guest today is Bob Lehto, who is the VP HR for BRD, which is the largest decentralized financial institution in the world. Bob, why don't we reset a little bit and you tell me sort of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, Bob Lehto, I'm based in San Francisco, California. I am the VP of HR at a company called BRD, and I think I told you a little bit about it at the show, but BRD is in the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah.
We started off as a digital wallet, but we're now the easy, simple, secure way to get into crypto.
Yep.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 million, north of 2 million downloads, represent clients and users of our wallet in like 170 odd countries, and have some dispersed offices throughout the US.
So I'm fascinated by this. Obviously we've been sort of predicting, what's going to happen with crypto and waiting for the space to mature. And, it's still, slightly underground, but very mainstream at the same time, right? There's all these contradictions.
There was literally things happening while we were together in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it was kind of fun to watch some of the price creeping up as well. I think there was probably a good 15% increase in Bitcoin price just
Right.
in the couple of days we were in Vegas. But some big companies like Starbucks and Whole Foods and a couple others that are escaping me right now kind of announced that they would be accepting Bitcoin as
Right.
payment.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a chance to see it, but there was actually a segment on Bitcoin on 60 Minutes last night. So it's I don't know if that's technically prime time or not, but we're getting close to prime time.
It's huge. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a big deal. And if you think about it, I mean, you can now pay with your Apple Wallet. You can pay with PayPal all over the place. Even at retail checkouts, you don't even have to have anything showing. You just wave your phone around sometimes, right? And Bitcoin is a currency just like any other digital currency, right? It's got its own ecosystem. It's got its own universe, but it's worth actual money. You can trade it just like anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering when this becomes, we can also buy things with basically our stock account. I mean, that's where we're heading, I think.
I think you're right. And I know that that's something that the SEC seems to keep putting off month after month.
Right.
But I've been at BRD for just over a year now. And almost since I've started there, it seems like always in the news, we're just around the corner for an ETF to be approved to be able to trade Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah.
There was a big conference in New York just last week in New York, while we were in Vegas, called Consensus, and I think there were a lot of big announcements there as well. But the general feeling is that a lot of the big institutional players are, definitely coming around, and even if they haven't publicly announced things yet, are really putting some resources and capital around researching it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I have lots of thoughts. So I think I told you I'm an advisor to a currency company, a crypto company
That's right. Forgot about that. Yeah.
that wants to be sort of the broker for transactions between job candidates and employers, among other things. Is this going to affect, the way talent acquisition is done? Is this going to affect the way employers can keep, private information? And are job candidates going to be able to own that private information and lock it down? And I think the idea here is at some point job candidates will be able to buy that data from employers and say, now it's all mine. I think that's
Right now, companies are using intellectual property and other arguments to not be able to let employees own that, right?
that's right. Yeah. So, Bob, you and I have known each other a long time, probably close to 10 years or more, would be my guess. And I've seen your career go in all kinds of fun directions. Is this the most fun you've had so far?
It is. It's people talk about the metaphor. It's the journey, right?
Yeah.
And I can see how every other role and company I've worked with has kind of led me to where I am now.
Uh-huh.
But I'm having a lot of fun
Yeah.
working with a great group of folks at the executive level, individual level, throughout the organization, and it's fun. I'm having a really good time.
So, how big is the company? How many people are you responsible for?
We're still small. I mean, we've got a big impact that 2 million plus downloads, but we're just about 55 employees today.
That's great. So,
Yeah,
it feels
and
like a
one of the,
startup.
it is definitely a startup.
Yeah.
And one of the things that impressed me, so over the last 5 years or so, I've kind of had this niche coming in as first head of HR,
Yeah.
where there's been no dedicated HR function prior,
Right.
and building up. And typically that typically it seems like companies are starting to think about that somewhere between 50 and 100, depending how employees, depending how fast.
Right.
Maybe if they want to get to 100 as fast as possible, maybe it's closer to 50, what have you. They reached out to me when they were about 35 employees, and there were a lot of compelling reasons, not only just because it was Bitcoin and
Right.
this emergent field and all of that, but they were thinking about it at 35 employees. And again, not to use too many metaphors, but they're like, Bob, we've got a great culture, but we want to work on the foundation now and just really, everything about the employee life cycle, about having a great culture, communication, make sure that we're, pay and all that is top notch. The sooner
Right.
we start on it, the easier it's going to be as we scale.
Right. So, in a situation like this, do you get involved with cooperatives that offer purchasing power and things like that? Or do you just set your goal on, we're going to do this with just our organization and try to build it properly from the ground up? How does that work?
That's a great question. So far, at least officially, it has been more on the solo effort.
Yep.
But whether I'm talking about my colleagues in engineering or marketing, a lot of them are having conversations just throughout the crypto ecosystem of what is good for one is good for many,
Right.
and we should really kind of pull our resources together. So that's something I definitely want to look at later this year, but haven't really made any big strides in that yet, personally.
So I think it would be interesting. So I know that there are some sort of buying groups for benefits and things like that based in Silicon Valley. We've all heard of the success that they have. I think getting something like that going within the crypto community would be a fascinating thing to spearhead. I nominate you.
Okay.
So
I mean, there's a lot of places we could go with that, right?
Right.
I mean, that could be really, really interesting.
it really could, and I just don't think that there's anything very organized yet, right, these days. And it's the perfect time to start thinking about this whole sort of other. I'm not even going to call it a vertical. It's an industry, right? It's not even just it's the financial industry, maybe the crypto vertical, but I feel like crypto, because of the technology and because of the other benefits of crypto, that's not just about finance, blockchain, et cetera, is kind of an industry in its own, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the company that you mentioned briefly that you're doing some advising with, I mean, I think that's a really interesting use case. I've also had a couple conversations with an entrepreneur taking kind of a complementary but kind of different angle at it. But I don't know if this is the term he would use or not, but more of like reputation management.
Yeah.
So you create your identity on blockchain. It's verified on the blockchain.
Right.
And one of the many use cases that they're trying to identify or solve is some of the spammy nature that's happened with some of the other kind of professional networking sites.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, it's kind of early days, but if I know you, I can welcome you to this site, right?
Right.
If I put my reputation on the line to say Craig is a stand-up guy, he should be part of this, you and I are actually rewarded with this new crypto token, right? And the more people that you introduce, you get more. And again, like you were saying earlier, it's a token, but it can be traded for dollars or for Bitcoin or some other currency whenever you want. The interesting thing about it, how they're tackling the reputation part, is like the moment that you suspect that there's a scammer or someone who's acting with a fraudulent identity, you can actually kind of challenge them in the network.
Mm-hmm.
And if they end up being bogus, you get half of what their
I like that.
treasury is.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So there's a built-in mechanism to actually weed out the bad guys.
This is very Fortnite, very Minecraft, right? I mean, it's so cool. So my kids would have a field day with this, and I like that because in all these games now they amass things and they trade with people to get their new skins and do all their business in that world, and it's very crypto. It's very yeah.
Well, our kids are going to be. I mean, when crypto becomes mainstream, they won't even think twice about it, right?
That's right.
Because they've had this experience, multiplayer games, and it'll just be. Yeah. It'll go from the gaming world to the physical world, I think.
It's second nature. So you and I are digital immigrants, right? Mm-hmm. And the digital natives have the advantage here.
They do.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so what keeps a VP of HR up at night these days?
Where do you... How much time do we have?
Right.
Gosh, there's a number of things. I mean, getting back to just having how I'm doing personally, I mean, I don't actually lose that much sleep in the grand scheme of things these days.
That's good.
Maybe it's just a little older and wiser, and I just have more perspective, right? It's got to be pretty bad to really keep me up. But that being said, some of the things that were some of the themes at Unleash, kind of tying back to that. The nature of remote work is, I've dabbled with it in the past, Craig, but like BRD is like right in the midst of it now.
Yeah.
35, a good third of our workforce is working from home offices. And so making sure that all the distributed satellites, all those people that are working from home are all feeling connected, getting the information that they need to be productive and satisfied and engaged can be tricky, especially when you have what feels like 1,000 different medium channels, whether it's Slack or email or a podcast or something like that. That's challenging. Regulatory environments, again, even if you just take away the crypto part and just focus on HR, I mean, with having so many different states, also different, it's challenging.
That's always tough.
Yeah, and again, I think getting back to another one of the big things that I saw playing out at Unleash was just um, I really loathe kind of talking about millennials or things like that. But as you talk about a multi-generational workforce today,
Right.
um, every company, whether it's whatever the vertical is, people want purpose in their careers
They
these
do.
days. It's become kind of a non-negotiable, which I think is one of the most exciting developments,
Yeah.
certainly in the last 5 or 10 years. But how do
Absolutely.
you provide that?
Right.
And knowing that if someone's 25 or 35 or 45, that might manifest itself differently. Um, and being able to tap into all your employees and all your potential storytellers to kind of be able to kind of share that
Right.
passion.
So, do you've been there? How long did you say?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. So you've
Yeah.
kind of seen a lot of the employees come through the door, right?
It's grown from about 35 to 50, about net increase of 20 people since I've been here.
Yeah. And so you're sort of developing an onboarding process and an employee experience that would suit you, right? I would say this is kind of how we do it. What would I like? And then just sort of via conversations, what do other people seem to want?
Yeah.
And I think onboarding is maybe most companies' biggest initial failure. Forget candidate experience, forget employer branding. Onboarding is so much more important, I think. And if you can do some of those communication things right up front and get all the right people in the organization tapping in with those new people, and they're not just left to sit there with a bunch of videos to watch and
Yeah.
a bunch
Yeah.
of paperwork to fill out for days and days and days. Give them purpose right off the bat. And when the company has purpose, that is sort of outside of what the business of the company is, you should also, I think, start getting new employees involved with that purpose right up front to fulfill that promise, right? I mean, if this is
Yeah.
what you're talking about. So have you figured
Yeah.
out ways to do that, and how's that onboarding process going?
Um, yeah, we have made a lot of strides, and yet it's if when I'm grading myself,
Yeah.
that's the one area where I feel, for all the reasons that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
I'd probably rate myself the hardest
Yeah.
in, or the poorest, because I just feel like we could do so much better. But we have made great strides. We, and this is one of the benefits of working at a small company, but we make sure that as quick to day one, certainly week 1 and 2, that new employees are getting to not just see those videos, but actually getting to have conversations like this with all the different department heads, so they can really see how um, marketing supports products, which supports engineering, which supports customer support. Um, that's probably a given. One of the things that we've only been doing for a short while, but we've had really great success, is um, we've actually had new hires over the last couple of months go through a quality assurance rotation, so that, again, and we're heavily engineering driven, and engineers always play a little bit of QA role, but we're specifically putting people in a quality assurance role for a week so that they can really understand what it's like, to have this phone and see the app. And it's all really about customer empathy.
Right.
That's really what we're driving to. And that's been really positive. In fact, we haven't even started it yet, but we're in the midst of, we're going to do a customer support rotation uh, for new hires as well. And we're actually going to go back, and again, the company's small enough, the goal is to have everyone in the company, within the next, we don't want to be overburdened on the QA or the customer support, but within the next year, everyone will have gone through that for a week.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and that's something we did at my last company as well. And I didn't come up with it, so I can't take the credit, but I did see how successful it was.
Yeah.
This was a company that really reliant on, it was a food delivery service, right? And
Yeah.
and so it was about Um, the nuts and bolts was about the success of our warehouse workers and our delivery drivers getting product to everyone to our customers. Um, and so we had everyone, whether it was a VP of marketing or a digital designer or growth hacker, everyone spent days in that refrigerated warehouse to actually experience and
Yeah,
understand and have empathy for that role.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my first jobs in hospital sales, I had to
Mm.
literally pick products off a shelf and deliver them in a van to a doctor's office
Mm.
and be the delivery guy so that I could learn all the products and understand what the problems of the accounts would be, which is, these doctors' offices and hospitals.
Mm.
And it was the smartest experience I've ever had to do something like that. And we all know the sort of Zappos story, right?
Yeah.
And I think they really accentuated that by rotating everyone through customer service
Yeah.
various times of the year. So I think that's great. Have you automated any of your processes? Like I know Inboarder is very popular now for automating onboarding stuff, and you can literally set up sort of timing so that everyone gets a text message saying it's time to click on this link and do this. It's time to
Mm.
check in with your new
That's
person.
we're on that journey right now. We're
Yeah.
we're using Bamboo HR
Uh
as
huh.
our source of record, and they have a lot of that functionality.
Yeah.
Um, again, being a department of one, like just trying to iterate a little bit more. So I mean, it's really easy. So I have that checklist, which is all based on the start date, and whether that start date
Uh huh.
changes, everything can kind of move, but all the stakeholders, whether it's hiring manager, whether it's the other executive team, IT, HR, everyone kind of knows the task.
Right.
But I think the next evolution for me is like actually embedding more of the links, embedding more of the videos. It's a living, vivid checklist, not just kind of a
Right.
static checklist.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
know. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
I know just how that
You
goes.
just got to tackle one part a day or one part a week,
Right.
just keep, make sure today's better than yesterday was.
So, what else is going on in your life? Tell me, sort of, what's going on at home. You have vacations planned this summer. What other activities are you into right now? And sort of what's going on with Bob?
Yeah. So far we only have one trip planned this summer. Right around 4th of July, we're gonna go up near Yosemite. We've kind of had an annual trip
Mm,
that we've done, gosh, since the kids were pretty little. I think
that's
we first
awesome.
went there when my oldest son turns 15 later this month, and I
Hmm.
think first time we went, he was 3. So
Wow.
we'll do some hiking and just relaxing up
Hmm.
in the mountains. That'll be good.
Love that.
Um, I've gotten back into cycling, which was
Hmm.
something I was out of for a while,
Yeah.
but just recently got a new bike. And being right here in San Francisco, we've got, of course, it's a big city, but like I'm 2 miles from the Golden Gate Bridge, and
Yeah.
then I can be in some really great cycling area.
Amazing, right? I
Yeah.
can't. I could. I don't know how you do it. I couldn't. I couldn't do what you do in San Francisco. It's too many climbs for me.
Uh, well, yeah. And then what else? I'm lucky enough with this job to travel some. I was just in Chicago last month visiting our office there. Going to make it up to Bend, Oregon, where
Hmm.
another one of our offices probably next month
Great
as
place.
well.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
need to spend another day or two and take advantage of some of the local
Hmm.
environments up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
I
about
was.
you? What do you got going this summer?
So well, a lot of travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was recently at the Employer Branding Strategies Conference last week in San Diego. Actually, it's week before last. And then I was in Chicago that weekend. So not this weekend, but a week ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we were there to see the Dandy Warhols, who I've been following
Oh,
since
okay.
the 1990s. This is their 25-year reunion tour.
Oh
Right,
man.
that's insane. They're from Portland, and a bunch of us go find a fun place to see them every year and do that. And this year they were playing in Wrigleyville, and so we
Okay.
went to go stay there for a couple of days, and it was really amazing. And
Nice.
yeah, and then of course I was at Unleash. I'll be coming up at LAX Tech Recruit in Los Angeles, and this year I am going to SHRM National for the first time in a few years.
Okay.
They've asked me to come speak there. I'm going to be speaking at a whole bunch of other blah 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 conferences.
So did you have one big takeaway from Unleash? Was there something that really kind of stood out
Yeah.
to you?
So I was paying pretty close attention to the startup competition,
Yeah.
and
Were you a judge?
I was not a judge this
You were
year.
not. Okay.
Last year I emceed and was also
Okay.
a judge.
Okay.
But this year I was just watching, which is fun for me. I was actually a judge recently at the Smart Recruiters Hiring Success Conference. So that was just about a month ago. So I'm getting to see a lot of good tech recently, which I like. And Allegis is also one of the two main backers of the technology sort of funding house in New York, Talent Tech Labs, and
Okay.
so through them I get to see a lot of cool stuff as well. But Jane.ai has caught my attention, and I'm hopefully going to have them on for one of these soon. What they're trying to do is automate out all the administrative tasks that recruiters have to do. So yeah, we've recently kind of surveyed our troops, who are working either on-site or off-site for our customers, which are all, big companies. And a huge percentage of the things that they do during the day are non-recruiting activities. They're administrative activities. And so if we could figure out, maybe with the help of Jane, I don't know, how to remove some of those, we'd be a much more sort of efficient and profitable business, I think. So that I thought was really good. Great dinner with Johnny Campbell and his group from Social Talent.
Always good to see those guys.
Always good to see those guys.
Yeah.
Good parties, good networking. I liked the trade floor there. I felt like it was open and you could have good conversations. And there's a lot of big companies there. I mean, IBM and SAP, and a lot of big players that don't necessarily show up at some of the other shows. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you stick around and see Snowden?
I did not. I had to get back. Did you?
That's right. You left. That's right. You left there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I heard.
I have to say I've seen recordings of him speaking. There was just something about it being live and kind of speaking to our audience.
Yeah.
And of course, like taking I think he gave about 35 minutes of kind of prepared talk,
Right.
just about kind of the dangers of technology today, not so much about his story going back, 2013 or what have you.
Right.
But then he took maybe 25 minutes of questions, through the
Yeah.
app, and that was pretty neat. Pretty neat.
So did he answer any of your questions?
He did not. No, of course, I didn't have any. I was kind of in observation mode at that point. But,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
it was a great show. I mean, it was so great running into you and Johnny and
Right.
Bill and so many people. It was a bit of a reunion,
Yeah.
which was pretty special. I was actually supposed to go to Hiring Success. I'd actually registered, so I
Yeah.
would have seen you there. But
Yeah.
our exec team needed to have a offsite, and of course, that was the one day that they decided to do it after I'd already registered. So
yeah.
unfortunately, I missed Hiring Success this year for the first time.
Well, so you'll have another opportunity in Amsterdam soon. So maybe think about meeting me there.
There you go.
We could have some fun there. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that'd be fun. Yeah.
All right. So this has been Bob Lehto. I always say Lehto, but it's Bob Lehto
Yeah.
from BRD, and that's a cryptocurrency company, and they do some really amazing things. And Bob has been their VP of HR for a little over a year, And Bob, always great to talk to you. Glad to see you. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope we run into each other in person again real soon.
I think we can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.